Now, if I have to come up to hear you, I may have to come up to here. So
no problem.
These speakers are not loud enough for me anymore.
Okay, looks like we're live there. Let me just get to our page so I can make sure I'm seeing all the comments. Okay, there we go. Good.
I may have to come up to here. So.
Okay, good. I have it live over here. So, welcome everybody that's going to be tuning in or is tuning in. I'm here with Master Joe McCarty, who's now in Region 6, but originally he was from Region 9. Would you like to introduce yourself a little bit, sir?
Well, my name, like you said, is Master Joe McCarty. I'm living in Mobile, Alabama, originally from Southington, Connecticut. I've been down here now for 32 years. So I'm here. Still teaching. I still teach 3 classes on Tuesdays and 3 classes on Thursdays. So, yeah, so having fun.
Absolutely, so that's awesome. And you are actually, I believe you are the 3rd person on the wall inside Grandmaster Studio of all the black belt pictures, right? You're the 3rd one there.
On the wall
of black belt.
I'm the 4th one.
4th one. Okay, sir.
Yeah. When I went with Grandmaster Bowden, he had 3 black belts already, and that was Tommy Yanelli, and I think one was Marie and one was Ann, I believe. It was two women and Tommy Yanelli. They were they had left. I only had the opportunity to work out with Tommy Yanelli 2 or 3 times. But they all 3 left, and basically they received their first degree, and it's typical that you get your first degree and you leave, you know.
Yes,
and I happened to be the 4th one on the wall.
So when did you start training?
When did I start training?
Yes, sir.
I actually started training when I was in the military in Busan, South Korea. I started training in October 1967. And that's when I started training. And I was there for 19 months. And after that, then I was discharged and came home.
Sir.
Do you want me to go on?
And so when you came back,
okay,
you were
came back looking for a place. I came back the end of May, and I was looking for a place to study, you know, to continue my training. And I found a small little place in Plantsville. And so I just went in just to spot it out, just to see what was going on and what style they were and everything else, you know. And a little guy came up, had his black belt on. He came up to me, and you know him. His name was Rich Hamill.
Yes, sir.
Rich was the first degree at the time. I was the first degree at the time. And he basically said, I can't teach you anything. He said, but I know somebody that can. And Rich mentioned that he was going to sponsor a tournament. And he was co-sponsor. His name was, the other sponsor was Bruce Twing.
I've heard that name.
And you know that name. Okay. Well, Bruce Twing and Rich Hamill was going to sponsor a tournament in June, and Rich invited me to go. And I had never seen a tournament before. We didn't have tournaments in Korea, you know.
Yep.
Not for 1st degree black belts, anyways. And so I decided to go as a spectator. I just went as a spectator, and I sat, in the stadium there. And the next thing I know, Rich recognized me, and he brought this guy over and introduced him, and his name was Bob Baldwin. And that was the first time that I met. At that time, he was Mr. Bowden because he was a third degree. And that was in June of '69. And then I would start my training with him. I took a couple months off, and I'd start my training. I believe it was September of '60. It was either September or October of '69. I started more formal training with Grandmaster Bowden at that time. So.
Yes, sir. And you really, from the history and the story that I've understood, you very quickly became one of Grandmaster Bowden's right hand people. You were right there with him.
Yep.
For a very long time.
Yep. Yep. I sure were. I was very fortunate. I was very blessed for the 53 years that I've been doing Tong Sudo. I've had two instructors, and one was my instructor in Korea, and then of course Grandmaster Bowden. Grandmaster Bowden was my instructor for 50 years before he passed, and but I was very blessed. I was at places, my pictures, the pictures that I take, I tell kids today, the pictures that you take today, 30 years from now, they'll be history. So I said, take the pictures. And the pictures that I have taken, I've been in the right place at the right time. So.
Yes, sir. Well, I had the opportunity, his family was wanting to clean up his house, so I got the opportunity to go and I want to say rescue, but pull out and find a lot of the Tong Sudo history that he had in his house, and I pulled out an entire filing cabinet full of stuff. I pulled out multiple shelves of stuff, so my downstairs is full right now, and I've slowly started to become to it. And one of the items I found, talking about your photos, is this. Whoop, I dropped it.
Yes, my calendar.
And
I made that calendar in 1983. I took all the pictures. That was we didn't belong. Well, I didn't belong to the association at that time, and he used Grandmaster Bowden used my calendar as my master project. So, but of course, I didn't take those pictures. That was me. But that was my master's project, which I was totally shocked because I didn't even know I was supposed to do a master's project back then. And I said, I want to make a calendar. And he said, okay. And I said, I'm going to take all the pictures. I'm going to develop them. And I had a developing back room, dark room and everything. So I developed all the pictures. They were all black and white. And I took all the pictures and I developed them. Then I took them to a printer and printed them out. And that was actually for 1984 calendar.
Yes, sir.
But it was actually produced in '83 because that's when I was tested for my master rank, was June of '83, and so I did that. And the first person, one of the very first people that I gave that calendar to, Grandmaster Shin came up for our tournament, our annual tournament, which was in November of '83, and I presented him that one of those calendars.
Yes, sir. So we have it's we talk about some of those things, and I've been finding VHS tapes of past tournaments and stuff like that. So, I think I found one from when Grandmaster Shin was here for a tournament. He was here for a test. So there's a lot of those pictures and stuff that I'm finding that I'm going to be coalescing and trying to preserve in some fashion as well.
Grandmaster Shin would come up periodically and for tests and for tournaments. And he would conduct classes. He would do little clinics at the academy, and several times. And that's when I really got to know Grandmaster Shin fairly well. I didn't get to know him really good like I would have liked to, but he knew me. He knew of me because of Grandmaster Bowden, and the relationship between Grandmaster Shin and Grandmaster Bowden was more than student instructor. There was a relationship there, and when Grandmaster Bowden promoted me to master, and then with the relationship between the two grandmasters, Grandmaster Shin recognized my rank because of Grandmaster Bowden. He trusted him. So, yeah.
So one of the people we have watching is actually asked, what prompted your interest in photography?
What my interest in the martial arts?
Photography.
Photography.
Yes, sir.
I have always been a nerd. When I was a kid, I've got pictures of myself taking pictures at my sister's wedding when I was 10 years old. Now, why, I don't know, but I've always loved photography. Always have. And it didn't matter what. I mean, I took all kinds of pictures, people, landscape, individuals. Well, the black belt wall, I probably took half those pictures. So, and I don't know if you know about that black belt wall, where that came from.
No, he never shared a story with me of where that idea came from.
Well, Grandmaster Bowden and myself, we went to New York City one day, and we were going to train with Grandmaster Richard Chun. And so we went to his studio in New York. Yeah, Richard Chun. Yeah.
Nope. It's your book.
Yes, Mudakwan. Yes. And that's why
in the front.
that's a history story right there. And I'm good at history. But we went to Richard Chun's studio. And the thing that impressed me the most, of course, we had a good workout and everything, but the thing that impressed me the most was the pictures of his black belts on his wall. So on the way home, I was talking to Grandmaster Bowden, and I said, what do you think about those pictures of the black belts? He said, what do you think? I said, I think it's a good idea. He said, then go for it. So it's just fortunate that when we went, there wasn't that many black belts at the academy. So we called Tommy Yanelli up, and the two girls, we got them into the studio to take pictures so we could put them on the wall. So, but that's how it started, was a visit to Richard Chun's studio. Periodically, especially before Grandmaster Shin came to the United States, Grandmaster Bowden would go and train with Richard Chun. And Richard Chun was Taekwondo Mudakwan. But that was okay. That's what I actually was promoted. My first degree black belt was Taekwondo Mudakwan. And at that time, the key word is Mudakwan. And at that time, Taekwondo Mudakwan and Tong Sudo Mudakwan were identical. because when Grandmaster Bowden, the very first class that he that I participated in, he came to me afterward. He said, "You're doing the exact same thing that I'm teaching," and that's how it was back then, until the history of Taekwondo changed in late '73, early '74. Taekwondo got away from all the different kwans and started their own thing, which completely changed Taekwondo.
Well, and that was even from what Grandmaster Bowen had told me a lot of times, was a lot of the early Tong Sudo pioneers in the United States, the Koreans, like even oh shoot, I saw a picture of him today. Silver Springs, Maryland.
Yeah.
He was
Kiwon Kim.
Kiwon Kim. He was
Kiwon Kim.
Muay Taekwondo.
He was Taekwondo. Well, originally he was Tong Sudo.
And then
Kiwon Kim came to the United States in 1963 as the chairman of the United States Tong Sudo Mudokwan. He was sent by Grandmaster Hwang Gi. And so he originally was Tong Sudo. And actually, and I didn't know this for years, sometimes Grandmaster Bowden was kind of quiet, especially in his own, in his own personal things, but I didn't know this for years. He periodically would go down to Kiwon Kim's studio, again, before Grandmaster Shin came. And he would train with Kiwon Kim. Well, this one time he went down, and he was pretty close friends with a guy named Joe Hayes. Well, Joe Hayes was a good competitor fighter back then in the early 70s. And Joe Hayes was one of Richard Chun's top students. Well, Richard Chun himself was a student of Kiwon Kim. So that's where Kiwon Kim and Richard Chun ties in.
Okay.
And so he was going down to watch Joe Hayes, and not knowing that Kiwon Kim wanted him to test for his third degree. And he didn't bring his uniform. So he borrowed Joe Hayes' uniform to test for his third degree with Kiwon Kim. So that I didn't know that for years. So
I don't remember that story off the top of my head, but he did talk about Kiwon Kim a couple of times.
Yeah. And then later on, Kiwon Kim and Richard Chun left Tong Sudo, and they went to Taekwondo, though they were still teaching Mudokwan. And truthfully, you don't hear the word Mudokwan anymore. But I teach my students right here in Mobile. I teach them to say, we don't say Mudokwan. We just say Tong Sudo, but you are learning Mudokwan. The style that I teach is Mudokwan. It's Mudokwan style. Great Grandmaster is Hwang Gi. So, and then from Hwang Gi, but there was a split back in, well, there actually was two splits with Hwang Gi and his organization. One split was in 1960. In 1960, Hwang Gi wanted to change the name from Tong Sudo Mudokwan to Subakdo. And some of his chief instructors didn't want to change the Subakdo. They wanted to stay Tong Sudo. And a lot of them left him. And then in 1965, some more left. And three of his top instructors left, and they started the actual Korean Taekwondo Mudokwan Association. So, and that's the association that I was promoted under for my first degree. So, but after that, then of course things changed, and the different quans, the different, like I said, back in '74, Taekwondo completely changed. And I know a man here. He's a grandmaster, Master Yun, and I've talked to Master Yun a couple times, and he asked me my rank and everything, and I told him. He looked right at me with kind of a sad face, and he said, "I was Tong Sudo at one time," and he said, and he was Taekwondo, and he asked me. He said, "Do you teach Tong Sudo forms?" And I said, "Yes, sir. I teach Tong Sudo form." He said, "I forget them." He said, "You come and teach my students Tong Sudo forms." So I never did get the opportunity. And then he turned around and retired this year. So,
well, as you said, you don't hear Mudokwan anymore because eventually one of these organizations did, I think, because of like copyright law and trademarks and all that stuff, they eventually did take the Sobakdo name because they could copyright it, because Mudokwan had been used so publicly they couldn't trademark it because it had been out there in so many ways.
Yes,
but it is now the Sobakdo Association. The Mudokwan had transformed into that eventually.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Mudokwan was back in the '60s. There was actually 9 Kwans. Kwans were different organizations, Mudokwan, Chundakwan, Odakwan. They were different styles. But back in the '60s, Mudokwan was the most popular. They're saying, history says that 70% of those that were participating in martial arts in Korea was taking Mudokwan. 70%. That was a big number. That's a big number. So, but yeah, Mudokwan, I teach Mudokwan. I'm Tong Sudo, but I teach Mudokwan. And I still teach. I'm traditionalist. I'm a person that loves tradition. And I still teach, though I don't count them as testing forms, like you teach the Kibans, the Kiban forms that Mr. Bowden, Grandmaster Bowden, got from Richard Chun. Well, I teach the Kibans too, but I also teach the original. I can't remember the name of it now. What now?
Was it are you saying the Gichoyons?
The Gichoyons forms. I still teach the Gichoyon forms, though I don't require it for testing, but I still teach them just to show them the difference between the original form and then what Grandmaster Shin added to the original form. So yeah, I still teach the Gichoyon forms. I teach the Seigyo forms too, but yep.
Yeah, no, that's true. Those are great forms. It was one night we were doing training. I think it was at Master Tolan school. We were doing a master's level training class, and Grandmaster Bodwin started doing parts of the form. He's like, I can't remember all of this form. He was, I learned this from Kiwon Kim.
Yeah.
He was, Excel, and he said the name of it. He was, yeah, I'm trying to remember this a little bit more sometimes. It was one of those moments where it was, I said after the show, I said, sir, you've forgotten more forms than most people are going to learn.
Yeah, I tried. The last time I saw him, I asked him about a particular form that he taught me, and it was a Kiwon Kim form. And I still can't remember the name of it, and he couldn't remember the name of it, though I didn't remember the whole thing, but I remember half of it. So
is it the one where you punch your own hand?
Yes. Punch your hand, punch your elbow. like that. Yeah.
Chinte.
What is it?
Jinte.
Jinte.
I think that was the one.
Yeah. And then he taught us another form, which was a breaking form. And I have no idea what the name. He came back one time and he said, Joe, I'm going to teach you. I have two forms. I'm going to teach you one. I'm going to teach Master Ron Savage the other one. And I know the form. I know the first one. I never did learn the second form, but I can't remember the names. But it was a breaking form. So, but I still teach my black belts the breaking form. So nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it. Good tradition, good history.
Absolutely.
Especially for the people that it came from. You know, lots of times, and I stress to my students who Grandmaster Shin was and who Grandmaster Bowden was. These are people that not only founded the World Tong Sudo, but they were a part of history, and we should never forget that they were part of it. You know, they were a great part of it. Grandmaster Shin especially was a great part of it, you know. And so Grandmaster Shin started his training in 1947. That's when I was born. So,
you know, and I think, you know, Grandmaster Shin did tremendous amount, and it really is amazing. And but I think, you know, sometimes the thing with Grandmaster Bowden was he was so quiet and humble that there's a lot of people, you know, in the martial arts industry and world that don't appreciate where he was and what position he had for a long time. Because you always would tell the story or mention, you know, talk about Wang Yi and how you know, for a long time until the incidents in the late 70s, early 80s with Richard Byrne and Richard Byrne's promotion.
Yeah.
That he was the that he was, you know, basically he was the secretary of the Mudakwon Federation.
He was the secretary of the United States Tong Sudo Mudakwon Federation. We joined that back in '75. I think he was asked to resign. I think it was '79, if I remember correctly.
And that was the whole Richard Byrne.
All because of Richard Byrne's promotion. Yes. Yes. It was a political thing back then, and I may have my hand slapped. I don't care anymore. I'm too old to care. But it was a political move. It was the Koreans. Too many Americans were getting promoted to master, and they were trying to slow the process down, truthfully. And so Grandmaster Bowden decided that he was going to promote Richard Byrne on himself. And the Koreans didn't like that. And that's when they asked him to resign that position. So, because of course, they asked Grandmaster Shin to resign back in '75. And he's the one that actually started the organization, the Federation at that time. And of course, with the relationship, Grandmaster Bowden was going to resign too. And Grandmaster Shin said, no, you stay with them. And it was to his advantage at the time, you know, to stay. And we didn't hear a lot from Grandmaster Shin, at least I didn't. I'm sure Grandmaster Bowden still had communication with him all that time. And the next thing we know, Grandmaster Shin is starting his own organization. And of course, Grandmaster Bowden was part of the beginning. Now, I was not, and all the other black belts at the academy were not part of the beginning. And I never asked Grandmaster Bowden this, but I have a feeling, because of the organization that we had just left, he didn't want his people burnt. And he wanted to see how this new World Tong Soo Do Association was going to work out. Because we didn't go into it until 84. So it had started in November of 82, but we didn't actually go into it as members until 84. So, yeah.
And actually, I can't actually see the date on the back, but I did find a picture from one of the World Championships of you and him and Master Del Bono at one of the early World Championships.
That was the 88 championship. I had my blazer on. That was the 88 championship. That's when I asked Grandmaster Strong, a couple of years ago, I said, do you have any pictures of yourself? And he said, not really. I said, well, I have a movie of you receiving your promotion to 5th degree in 1988. He looked at me. He said, you do? I said, yeah, I was on the platform taking movies. So I made a copy of it and gave it to him. So, but I have a picture of him receiving his 5th degree black belt and 1988. And if you know, of course, you know Master Michael Hicks.
Mm-hmm.
He was on the platform giving Grandmaster Shin the different certificates. And Michael Hicks was a 3rd degree back then. So 1988. So, awesome. So I've got it all on pictures and film. So,
we have one of the people in the comments here is asking a question for you. They would like to know, what is the most important part? Important part of all masters, being a master, that you would like to pass on.
What's the most important part?
Mm-hmm.
Grandmaster Shin was harsh, but he was gentle. Grandmaster Bowden, my opinion, was too kind-hearted. Very meek man, very kind. And just to my story, Grandmaster, with the very first time that I trained at the academy, which, like I said, September, I believe it was September or October of '69. I came in and I had my old Korean uniform. And if you've never been to Korea and you never received a uniform in Korea, you wouldn't know what I'm talking about. They were homemade. They shrunk very much. So I went to put the uniform on and I came out. He said, that's Korean uniform. I said, yes, sir. He said, you don't need that. And he turned around and opened his cabinet and he pulled out a brand new uniform and a brand new black belt. And he said, here, go change. And that's just the type of person he was. Didn't ask for any money, didn't ask for this, didn't even know if I was going to be a committed student. Didn't know. But yet he wasn't selfish. He was a giving person, you know. And the thing that I have learned, especially from him, was I coined the phrase of John F. Kennedy. Ask not what the country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country. Well, I say the same principle. Ask not what your students can do for you, but what can you do for your students? And Grandmaster Bowden taught me that. It's not what I can get, it's what I can give. And he was a giver. Always gave. And sometimes he gave when it hurt. But yet he was just that type of person.
Yes, sir.
So, yeah.
So we have we have a couple of questions, so we'll get to the first one.
Okay.
What is your favorite part of Tong Sudo, and what would you consider your specialty in Tong Sudo?
What was my favorite part of Tong Sudo, and what was the second part?
What would you consider like your specialty?
My specialty. My favorite part is yuns, forms. And I would say my specialty is forms. You can tell that by my students when they go to tournaments. The majority of them will bring home medals from forms. And I've always liked forms. I enjoyed forms. Forms are, it's a type of thing that you don't need a lot of people around. You can do it by yourself once you learn the form. So, I know when I was younger, back in the early 70s, I did some breaking. And,
I've seen a few of those pictures.
Pardon?
I've seen a few of those pictures.
Pictures, yeah. I've done some breaking, and with cement blocks. I saw a young man. Matter of fact, it was Rich Hamill. We were at a demonstration, and Rich Hamill came out, and he broke 3 cement blocks with a pseudo. And I'm saying to myself, if that little guy can do it, I know I can. So I went out the next day and bought 4 cement blocks, took them home, and I broke them. And with a pseudo. And then eventually I worked my way up to 6 at regularly, and a demo at University of Connecticut. I put on a demo one time, and I broke 7 then. And then my very last competition, and I wasn't brokenhearted. I didn't care if I won or lost. Didn't matter. I tried to break 8. And I broke the top 6. And then I broke the bottom 2 with a second shot. And they still ended up giving me second place. So, which I didn't think was fair, but they gave it to me. So, but that only lasted for like 3 years. And, your hand and mentally and physically, you get worn from that. So overall, my favorite thing would be form. My students ask me, what's your favorite form? And I always automatically say, Basai. And they said, why? I said, because I did it so much when I was in Korea. Once I made my red belt, it was, of course, back then we had 2-hour classes, and it was nothing for me to do Basai 4 and 5 times a class. And of course, back when I was training in Korea, we were training 5 days a week, 2-hour classes. If you wanted to take a second class, you could. My instructor back then was very expensive. For military terms, he was very expensive. It was $10 a month. So, but yeah, I'm hoping I'm answering that question.
I think that was great. You were talking about form though for a moment, and as I said before, I have all this stuff from Grandmaster Bodwin's house, and I'm sure he was never big on videotaping his forms being done or his technique, being recorded too much.
Yeah.
But somebody in 1991 or 92 convinced him to be recorded. So I'm in the process of converting it now. I have a video of him doing all of the World Tongsudo forms.
Okay.
O ship Sabo.
Yeah.
And all of the weapons forms that we had at the time. So we because I've asked him for years. I'm like, sir, can we, record you and keep you going. And he was like, no. Never told me that in his basement, where I've been hundreds of times, thousands of times in his basement with him.
Yeah.
He had a whole rack of videotapes on the door.
Yeah.
I know that to 5 feet away from me all those years was the exact thing I was looking for.
Yeah. I know. Well, I convinced him before I moved down here to do my next form because he never taught it to me. And you've seen it on film. He did Shaisan. And he was not in a hurry. So we couldn't be in a hurry. And I was a master. Oh my goodness. Almost 4 years before he even recorded Shaisan for me. He didn't teach it to me. He recorded it. And I was a 4th degree for 4 years with him. So, but that's the type, everybody's in a hurry. And that's another thing Grandmaster Bowden, I believe, taught me. He said, as Grandmaster Shin would say, this is a journey. And you can't be in a hurry. You take your time. And I advise and I teach my kids, don't be in a hurry. I've got a 18-year-old. She's a 1st degree. Matter of fact, she's in boot camp right now.
Yeah, and, she was going away.
Yeah, and I've got my grandson. He's a 2nd degree. Well, he's 17. And I tell him, I said, look, you got all your life. Take your time. Get things right. Do it right. It's not, what am I going to make? When am I going to make my 3rd degree? When am I going to make my 4th degree? It doesn't matter. That was one question I never asked. And of course, back then we were taught, it was an unspeakable teaching, put it that way. You never came up to your instructor and said, can I test? Can I test? You never did. Your instructor always came to you and said, I want you to test. And for all the ranks, Grandmaster Bowden, he promoted me to 2nd. I actually was his first 2nd degree. I actually was his first 3rd degree. He always says I was his first 4th degree, but actually I was co-4th degrees because Ron Savage tested the same day I did for his 4th. So and neither one of us ever asked, when am I going to make my 2nd degree? Or when am I going to make my 3rd degree? We were in no hurry because we knew we were in it for the long haul. I mean, I've been a 1st degree. I've been a black belt for 51 years. So, and as far as I'm concerned, I've got another 10, 15, 20 years as far as I'm concerned, as long as the Lord allows it. And, we'll see what happens. And I continue teaching. I continue being a master instructor and not only teaching the kids Tongsudo, but I teach them life. I teach them facts. This is what you're going through. When you have teenagers coming to you, not only because you're their instructor, but because they trust you, you're their friend, and and they come to you for advice, or they come to you with a problem. It's just how it is. That's part of life. On my logo, I have 3 words: spirit, soul, and body. And I never knew this until I joined the YMCA. But the YMCA, on their logo, is the same: spirit, soul, and body. And the body is a temporal thing. Yes, we need the exercise, we need to take care of it, but the spirit and the soul are eternal. And so I teach. I don't preach. I don't get into my own beliefs, but morality and things like that, I teach that. So I teach history. I teach my students history, modern day history, starting with the birth of Wangi, all the way up to now. And you ask my students about the history, they'll tell you they know. So because it's more than just form, it's more than just kicking and punching. It's more than just the Korean language. When I went to Korea, I was there 2 days, and I worked with a Korean, and they introduced me to him, and I always wanted to take some form of karate, which I never knew what karate was, but I always wanted to take it ever since I did basic training. Did hand-to-hand combat, which was a joke. It was terrible. Because after they taught us, they said, don't go downtown and try to use this because you'll probably get killed. Yeah, but I always wanted to take it, and I asked Mr. Park. He was one of the Koreans that worked with me. I said, Mr. Park, do you have, and I didn't know much about Korea. I said, do you have anything, karate? And he looked puzzled. He didn't understand what karate was. I said, kicking, punching. He said, oh, taekwondo. And then I realized, well, the word karate was Japanese. But they knew what taekwondo was, or tong sudo. And he said, yes. He said, I'm a black belt, first degree. And he said, they always say number one, I have number one instructor. I introduce you to him. I mean, he took me over that day and introduced me to my future instructor, which I started classes the next day. So I was in Korea 3 days, and I was taking tong sudo or taekwondo mudokwan. So I didn't waste any time. It was fun.
You were talking about how you teach your student, and you develop these relationships. Doing one of these discussions last week with Master UTEC, and he said almost the exact same thing. The bond everyone develops is amazing.
Yep. In some of the manuals, especially with the Korean, they never got close to their students because, especially when I was in Korea, they knew they only had you for so many months. So they didn't want to form an actual close relationship. They were good instructors. They were excellent instructors. My instructor, my Korean instructor, Mr. Cho, he was a 6th Dan. And back then, there was no such thing as master. They didn't call him master. He wore a regular belt. He was a 6th Dan. My assistant instructor was Mr. Kim. He was a 4th Dan. A lot of people don't know, and I don't know how it is now, but I know how it was when I was there and where I was. Now, I can't say the whole country was this way, but when I was in Busan, 1st degree, 2nd degree, and 3rd degree were considered students. They were not allowed to teach. As a fourth degree, you would be an intern with a higher rank, and you were being taught how to teach as a fourth degree. So they knew they had X amount of time. So, and my instructor, like I said, I was very fortunate, very blessed for the two instructors I've had. He was a technician. He believed in technique, and he stressed technique. The first 3 weeks of my training, I did up and back of a total gym, up and back, front stances, fighting stances, and horseback stance for 3 weeks. That's all I did with the 3 stances. He wanted to be sure I knew the stances before he started showing me technique. That's just how they were. Fun. It was fun. I would do it again if I was 18 or 19. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, like I said, you were you probably had the job I had for a long time with Grandmaster Bowden before me. I think you and I were the only two that had that job for long stretches of time.
Right.
I know after you left, there was a few people who tried to fill that position that you had, and then when I eventually got to a certain age and rank, I kind of helped him with that position, and I think, the character in you that I think from my perspective that stands out is that, and probably most of the people listening here will probably say it, anybody that knows you will say this too, is that you've never talked about anything tonight so far, and I've never heard you talk about anything for your own glory, for lack of a better term. That you were helping him, you were with the Grandmaster Bowden, and now for your students, as basically kind of that JFK quote you said, it was to help other people.
That's right.
That's amazing, sir.
That's right. The thing is, Dan, Master Dan.
That by the way, that when I hear you say that to me, I feel I am so humbled by you saying that, referring to me that way, because
I'll tell you, Grandmaster Bowden was the type of person. There were you myself and you. I always, and I think I told you one time, Master Bowden always played good cop, bad cop, and he was always the good cop. We were always the bad cop. When certain situations came about at the academy, he'd say, "Joe, take care of it." And I'm sure he did the same thing to you, to take care of it. So, yeah, until he decided, once we joined the association, he decided, and you showed me the card, and I never knew there was a card.
For everyone that isn't know what it is, I'm going to hold it up so you guys can see it. It'll zoom in and catch it. It says Master McCarty, Regional Director.
I was the first regional director of Region 9. And I'll tell you, the regional directions have got a job on them today compared to what I had. Being a new association, I had my main job as regional director was presentations, going to testings for GUP testings and things like that. And my big job was to go to different Tong Sudo schools and try to talk them into joining the association. And in the 2.5 years that I was regional director, a little over 2.5 years, I believe I convinced and had 6 or 7 studios join the association from Region 9. So, and to my surprise, just before I moved, Grandmaster Shin presented me with the presidential citation because of that. And that I was shocked, of course, pride, but shocked. Never expected something like that. So, but yeah, and that was all because of Grandmaster Bowden. He's the one that promoted me to regional director. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and I remember, sorry, my cat always seems to want to get in on the interviews. Sorry, the cat wanted to say hello. But
I see it now. Okay.
Thank you. But so you were around through the through the 70s and then into the early 80s.
I left the academy in 80. I moved to Mobile in 87.
Okay.
So I was, a month into the 60s, 10 years in the 70s, and 8 months in the 80s. So I was with him I was a month shy of 19 years that I was with him.
So again, all the stuff I've been going through downstairs, just the various events and various things that happened, and all of the scholarship tournaments that we did.
Yep.
Do you the year he was in the movie? Do you remember that?
The years I was where?
Well, the year Grandmaster Bowden was in the movie with Richard Byrne.
I never saw it, but I knew about it.
You don't want to see
it. I don't want to see it. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, Richard Burns was that type of person. So, I'll tell you one thing about Grandmaster Bowden that some people don't know about. He was a pioneer in different things. And one of the things, back in the 70s, he established a collegiate tournament. And he would invite different colleges that he knew had some type of karate training. And they would come with 5-man teams and compete in a college tournament. And a lot of people didn't know that. And he did that for quite a few years. He did a college tournament. Matter of fact, Ron Savage was the first degree at the time, and he had a little school at the University of Connecticut. And lots of times we would use the University of Connecticut or somewhere in Waterbury and to have these tournaments. And he was very first. And I noticed I didn't get the opportunity to go, but I noticed last year they had the North American Championship, and there was some team competition there. Yes. And I think he may have gotten that team competition back from the college years, college championships, and and basically they had 5 competitors on each team, and if you scored a certain if you placed a certain place, second, third, or fourth place, or first place, you would get so many points, and then they would add the scores up at the end of the competition to see who was the winner for that competition. But he started that, so yeah, it was good. I mean, it was a good tournament. And of course, he always always had a tournament in November. Always had his tournament in November. Always had kids Olympics in the summertime, and always for years and years and years and years had black belt night on Tuesday night, 7 o'clock.
Yep.
Yeah, he was a great man.
Yes, sir.
He was a great man. I was honestly, I was devastated when I found out. Master Mike Porco called me, and of course, I had talked to you earlier, but it was shortly after we hung up. Master Mike Porco called me, and you know, it's friends are good to have. I'll tell you, friends are good to have, and it's something. And I've been watching some of the different interviews and things, you know, and I'm going to tell you, we got some good masters in the association. You know, I'm not one to brag on different things or different people, but yeah, we got some good masters, and it's good.
It is, sir. It was, you know, I've done a couple of these interviews, and you know, I've been texting with a couple of the other guys who are doing them also.
Yeah.
And you know, it's funny. I had said to the two guys, two of the guys that are doing them, I said, I have you set up for this. This was like last week, and one of the guys goes, like, damn, I had him on my list. And he goes, no, you do, because you have a relationship. It'll be better with you. I'm like, okay. You know, I think, you know, the history that you have, and people have been saying they loved it. The history that you were able to bring up, sir, and
yeah,
I really appreciate you taking the time and doing this with me. I always love talking to you and getting the time we can catch up and
yeah,
each other.
yeah.
I'm sure as I go through all of the stuff that I have downstairs, and I start finding things, I'll be sending you messages or sending something, because there's quite a bit of history down there, and you're a big part of a lot of those items that I'm finding downstairs. So
yeah. Grandmaster Bowden periodically, he knew I was a history buff, and you know, and when I was in high school, I hated history, but since I'm part of it now, I love it. But periodically, he'd call me, and he said, "Such and such a thing. When did it happen?" Because he knew I had pictures, and I could tell you just from the pictures approximately the date of when it happened. So he called me one time. He said, "Wasn't the first world tournament in '84?" I said, "No, sir, it was not." "Well, how do you know that?" I said, "Well, number one, I've got pictures. Number two, I have the banner they gave us. The first world tournament was in '86. And he got to thinking. He said, "Well, I guess you're right." He said, "Oh, I know what it was. There was another. We had another tournament in '84. It wasn't considered a world tournament back then." So, but he'd call me periodically and just to talk, and you know, and my biggest pride, you know, I had been at him for over 30 years to come and visit, you know, and 2 years ago, he happened to come down, and he was going to participate in a tournament and a black belt across the bay, about 50 miles from here. And he stayed at my house. What an honor, you know. And the thing is, you know, we called him family, and he called us family, you know. And he was just such a likable guy, and you know, he was just part of us.
Yes, sir.
And he'll always be a part of me, always. Probably other than my dad, who was a great influence on my life, and he was probably a great, I'm not going to say greater, but he was among the top 2 or 3. So, and a lot of people don't know. Some people know, some people don't know. But my dad was a minister, so spiritually, he was a great influence on me spiritually. And of course, I'm a minister. And though I'm kind of retired, I'm more of an evangelist. I tell people I still marry and bury. So, but Grandmaster Bowden taught me a lot of things that are just everyday that anybody should know. It's just everyday occurrence. Just what do you do for this and what do you do for that? How do you treat people? You smile and give them a hug. So
you say the comment there about him, about how to treat people.
Yeah.
And with all the opportunities I had to travel with him, I got to go to Europe with him. I got to go to South America with him, masters clinics, tournaments all over the place. The thing that it stands out to me no matter what. And some people probably say this sounds a little silly, but
yeah,
every restaurant we ever went to, every person that was a server, a bartender, the first thing he did was he memorized their name.
Yeah.
And for the rest of the time we were there, he would always address that person by name. And it sounds like a simple thing.
Yeah.
It has such an effect on me. And it's amazing. And that's a lesson that I always keep from him. Or try to keep from him.
He treated people equally. And it didn't matter if you were Tong Sudo. If you were martial art, it didn't matter if you were Tong Sudo or not. One of his best friends, one of his closest friends in martial arts, of course, other than Grandmaster Shin, was Bruce Twing. And Bruce Twing was Taekwondo Chundakwan. But Bruce moved to Vermont one time. And he wanted to start a school in Vermont. There was no schools in that area. And he asked Grandmaster Bowden to come up with some of his students to help put on a demonstration to kick off the school. So it didn't matter if he was Tong Sudo. He was a friend. He was a martial artist. He was a friend. It doesn't matter if he was Taekwondo Chundakwan. He was there. And I happened to be there. And it was my first travel experience with Grandmaster Bowden. Back then he had a Volkswagen Beetle. And it was red. And there were 7 of us in the Beetle going from Connecticut to Vermont. I'm telling you, I had a kid sitting on my lap the whole way. And there was, I don't know how many, 4 or 5 in the back seat. So, but there was 7 of us in that Volkswagen. That was my first experience with traveling with him. So I didn't have opportunities to do international traveling. I didn't know if I wanted to or not after that. But yeah, he did. He just treated people. He loved people. And you know what? I believe with all my heart it wasn't fake. It was sincere. It was true. He just loved people, I asked him one time, shortly after he made his Grandmaster, I said, "Have you ever thought about retiring?" And he looked at me and he chuckled and he said, "Every day." But I know I can't. He said, "I just love it too much." And I'm basically the same way. Some people say, "When are you going to retire, Master McCarty?" I said, "When I can't tie my belt anymore." So I don't know. I hope, like I said, I hope I have another 10, 15, 20 years. So I want to be around to see these kids grow up and get married and have kids of their own. So I want to, they bothered me all these years. I want to bother them for a while. But it's been good.
Yes, sir. Well, yeah. Thank you so much, sir. Usually we have these at about an hour, and we're an hour and 10. So.
Oh, okay. You're quite welcome. It's been an honor and a privilege to just share a little bit, and thank you for asking me.
My pleasure. I have to give credit. It was Lauren, my wife, who you've met before. She said when I was trying to think of somebody, she goes, ask Master McCarty.
Yeah, Dan, I always said, of course, my school is McCarty's Academy of Karate. And I've always said, once you're part of the academy, you're always part of the academy. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm still part of Baldwin Academy of Karate. So that's just how it is. Mr. Jeff Haney, Master Haney, he was the same way. Haney's Academy of Karate, and once, like I said, once you're part of the academy, you're always part of the academy. That's just you. That's your life. That's in you, and that's him. That's him. I mean, he was the academy. Originally it wasn't Baldwin Academy of Karate. Originally it was just Academy of Karate.
I found one of those patches downstairs.
You have one of the patches? Okay. I still have my old patch. I still have my original patch. It was Academy of Karate. So yes, Waterbury. All right. Thank you, Dan, for having me, man.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to end this, and I think it just disconnect us, but it'll be great. Thank you again, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye.